Anamari Fanthorpe, and I'll be your host today. Today we have Jonty Hodge here from Kepla, and we're going to be learning all about Kepla and how it works, and three of the most effective digital and strategies for businesses with a limited budget. So we actually had the pleasure of having one of your partners on the other day, and he schooled us in a whole bunch of marketing stuff. And so this is going to be a great little follow up from that session, because he did talk about Kepler a little bit, but I had said, oh, you're coming on. So yeah, let's dive deep into that. I know that you folks are joining us on multiple channels. So if you want to communicate with Jonty, you can feel free to drop any of the questions you have into the chat, and I'll pull them through to Zoom where we're hosting this event. So thanks, Jonty. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, cool. Hey, pleasure to be here. And just a heads up, my presentation design skills are not as good as Tim's. So just keep that in mind.
That's all good. We're happy for it to be it can look like hot garbage. That's totally fine. We know we're gonna get the goods. So yeah.
Yeah. I saw his presentations and I was just like, whoa, it's a hard follow-up.
I know he's got this rainbow background too. He's looking all fancy. So yeah, what I'm gonna do is just drop off, and I'll just open up those chats across the social media platforms, and then I'll let you kick off. But I'll let you know if your share screen's working.
Cool. Awesome. Sweet.
Yeah.
Is that all good?
Good. What do you say? This was like under promise, what over deliver or something. It looks great. Okay.
Oh, this is just the title screen. Hey folks. So really excited to be here. Wanted to kind of dive into a couple of things. Not just the platform, what Kepler's all about, but really kind of give three proven strategies that I've seen over my time being as a digital marketer for businesses on a limited budget. So really these strategies are focused around some tactics, some tricks, some things that you can do to maximize your digital advertising spend. So they might be a little bit left field. I know there's a lot of people who have come on and talked about digital marketing, all the fundamentals and stuff like that. So hopefully, there's a couple of things that, I can share with you today that you can kind of walk away with and implement in your digital advertising as well. And we're also going to do, we're going to try and stay out of the slides, maybe as much as possible, because I want to make this a little bit interactive, that's always, interesting time, a bit interactive, and actually kind of go into the platforms as well, just so you can kind of see the goods and get a feel for it. And in some cases, we're going to be using Kepler as well to kind of create some of the campaigns. But if there's any questions or anything like that, of like how do I do this in Google Ads or Meta Ads as well, we can kind of dive into that as well, which sounds good. So the agenda, what we're going to start with is, in terms of three strategies, I've actually broken this down into, paid search. So my ultimate paid search strategy for someone on a limited budget, where they might be going after, bidding on competitive, keywords or search terms. Then for Meta as well. So my go-to strategy for that. And then a cross-channel strategy, or a kind of tactic that I use to leverage other channels to help me influence and build campaigns across other channels. So I'll get into that, what that means soon. And then resources. So I've just provided some resources here. So after the session, there's a bunch of resources on our website in terms of forecasting tools, benchmarking, all sorts of things that you can kind of jump on, copy the Google Sheet. I think that'll be super valuable to anyone listening. And then maybe just talk about the Kepler platform and what it's about as well. And I think we've got a special digital boost offer that we can talk about. So in terms of my background, just want to kind of shed a light. I started back in Trade Me, helping with their paid search marketing, so managing spends of north of $1 million plus across their Google Ads. I then joined the VML Weiner agency, where my clients were Vodafone, Jaguar Land Rover, Arnott's Burger King, and they were managing multi-million-dollar budgets. So they were running heaps of paid search campaigns. And then I co-founded Arto Digital, and then moved on to and co-founded what we call Kepla, which is effectively a digital advertising agency in your pocket. And there's kind of a bit of a story about my kind of career journey. And then, yeah, so we'll kind of just dive straight into it. So why is digital marketing important? So I'm not going to spend too long on this, but number one, it's all about generating leads and sales for your business, right? It's about staying top of mind, staying front of center, for your existing customers or people who might be looking to purchase your product or service. And it's engaging those audiences. And I think it's even more important to, for digital advertising to have a role, particularly in this current, macroeconomic environment when, there might be some fluctuations where it's like, businesses might be feeling the pinch. Most people will come into this kind of landscape and be like, oh, we need to reduce costs, we need to kind of pull back everything. But I think there's a lot of benefit to kind of being on the having a kind of a opportunistic approach and being like, well, how can we actually generate some campaigns and generate that demand and actually get sales through the door, get new customers through the door. There's a heap of opportunity for businesses to stay top of mind. To stay top of mind and to generate those leads and sales. So digital marketing is, and digital advertising is even more important now during these times when people might be looking to pull back. Not only because it helps you keep top of mind for the people who might be looking to buy your products or services, but you will also naturally see the spend or level of competitiveness decline. So you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck when it comes to running campaigns. So what to do with a limited budget? Now, this is a hard one because I've worked with businesses, who have, these $1 million budgets right down to, businesses who have, $500 budgets. And to tell you the truth, it's a lot harder to get results with like a $500 a month spend. You've got limited trial and error. You got that $500, you got that $1,000 a month that you might be looking to spend on Google Ads or Meta Ads or other, advertising. And for a lot of small businesses or businesses who have limited budgets, that trial and error, there's a real fine line between this it not working and it actually working and paying dividends, and you've seen those results. So it's actually a lot harder to generate results if you don't have a larger budget to test with. And so for small businesses, it can be quite difficult. So hopefully some of these strategies will help you. But the main kind of takeaways, if I was to summarize, what you should do or how you should approach it is, for a business with a limited budget is to focus on areas where there's less competition in the ad space. So think about the different channels rather than just, Google and Meta. What other channels are out there that I can actually potentially be running my campaigns on? So, real lucrative channel for a lot of businesses is Reddit ads. In terms of running a campaign on Reddit ads, depending on your audiences, is lurking on that platform, can be way more cost effective. If you were to spend, $500 on, say Google versus Reddit ads, you might end up getting a lot more clicks to your website, driving a lot more traffic for the same amount of budget. So really kind of think about the different channels and platforms that are out there rather than just the big two. The second one is an obvious one, ensure you're measuring conversions, right? So making sure that your tracking is set up correctly. I know Tim did a full-on session on which metrics you should be measuring and tracking for your campaigns. So I'm not going to delve too deep into that. And then the third one is to really plan your media spend based on seasonality. And I think that is like even more important in general is to actually plan out your marketing spend on an annual or seasonal basis. So I see a lot of small businesses, right? They'll come and they'll be like, oh, I'll just get some campaigns up and running this month. I'll chuck $1,000 at it or $500 at it. And I might continue and leave that running. And then, I might need a reduced budget, but you should definitely be planning out your marketing. You're creating a 12-month plan, breaking that down into quarters, and then kind of being like, well, where are my peaks and troughs in my sales? Where are my peaks and my troughs in my leads or contacts that I'm generating? And kind of adjusting your budget for that seasonality is actually super important because you're actually going to get a lot more out of your kind of annual, your annual marketing spend. And then finally, a quick plug here is using tools like Kepla to kind of automate your ad optimization, help with reporting and to understand that return on investment, right? So going into all these ad platforms can be a bit daunting. There's a lot of dials, there's a lot of things to look at. So what Kepla does is it kind of pulls that all together. It allows you to create campaigns very easily. And we take care of all the heavy lifting when it comes to the kind of the optimization of your campaigns as well. So leveraging tools and technologies to save you time and save you money is super important. Any questions on that, Anamari?
Nope, we're all good so far. And I love this talking about Reddit. We haven't even talked about that actually on this platform at all. So this is really interesting. We're all going to have a good look at it and evaluate whether or not it would work for us. And just that seasonal kind of comment, I haven't heard anybody say that yet either. So like,
Yeah.
it is wonderful.
100%. And like I can flick through as part of our resources, kind of a media schedule, and it's just playing it out, having a Google sheet or an Excel sheet, and you've got okay, here's the campaigns I'm going to run, and between January to March, and December typically. Your CPCs or cost per clicks skyrocket around Black Friday these days. So like, should small businesses be spending their marketing budget during that time period? Probably not. So they should probably dip it. So it's actually just, sitting some time aside and being strategic and actually planning out your marketing is actually the best thing that you can do, particularly if you have a limited budget. Cool, sweet. So the three proven search strategy, there's three proven strategies. So we've got the ultimate search strategy, and this is hands down one of my favorites. And it's going to go against probably a lot of stuff that people have said on other webinars, but hopefully it's kind of different to what people have seen. So one does not simply master paid search strategy overnight. We all know that running Google ads, can be hit or miss. It is a bit of a gamble. You create a campaign in the platform, you target some keywords, you create some ads, and you're like, well, I'm getting clicks, I'm getting some impressions, I'm not too sure what's happening. Your ads might be being served to, non-relevant search terms. How you structure your campaigns and ad groups and ads and keywords make a massive difference. All the settings make a big difference. There's so much that goes into that platform, and it can be quite complicated, particularly for small businesses, right? And so it's really hard to master paid search strategy overnight. I'm still learning. I've been, around the block for about 9 or so years when it comes to, paid search, and I'm still learning things and developing my own skill set. But here's the ultimate paid search strategy that I've found most effective for small businesses with a limited budget. Is a lot of people, when it comes to running Google ads, they'll focus on really high intent terms, right? So they'll focus on, in this case, I've got a skincare company here, and they'll focus on conversion and brand, the conversion and brand state, where they're kind of running ads for keywords like best eczema cream or buy eczema cream or shop eczema cream, right? They're targeting the bottom of the funnel, and that has a lot of repercussions, because what's actually happening is every other advertiser or business similar to you is going to be bidding on that keyword. So what that means is that the cost per click for that keyword, even though it's a high intent and someone might be looking to make a purchase, the cost per click is going to be significantly higher, because there's so much competition revolving around those kind of that limited set of keywords. So everyone talks about search being it's all about getting in front of people who are actively searching for products or services, right? And definitely saying that you shouldn't be running campaigns that do that, but most people will only focus on that bottom of funnel for Google search, and they won't actually leverage the full kind of funnel in terms of awareness and consideration search terms, and factor that into their Google Ads strategy. And so when it comes to, and I've got some math that I can go through later, in future slides, but everyone focuses on that conversion thing. So what I recommend doing is actually running campaigns at the awareness stage. So this is where people are actually in an exploratory phase of their buyer journey, right? So they might be like thinking about, oh, I've got itchy or dry skin, or they're kind of in those exploratory terms. And typically, what you'll find is that there will only be organic results for a lot of those terms. So if you were to serve ads or run a campaign which is actually targeting those exploratory terms, yes, the intent might be lower in terms of purchase, that purchasing decision or making that purchasing decision, but the cost per click that you're going to pay to reach people at the top of funnel, even in search, is going to be a lot lower. And I've got some examples here. I've got some examples that we can kind of walk through of how effective that is, and the click-through rates that I've seen for people who are kind of running these campaigns at the awareness or exploratory stage are through the roof, like in the 30 to 40% mark, where they're getting 30% click-through rate on their ad, right? And the benefit to doing that is that not only are you getting really high engagement, the landing page, or depending on where you're sending them to, say for example, in this case, dry, itchy rash on skin, it might be like a blog page in terms of talking about all the factors of, how someone could have, dry, itchy skin. They're a potential relevant customer that you're kind of qualifying them already, right? Because they've got these symptoms and you've potentially got a solution to your product, and now they've actually heard about your business and heard about your product or service. So here's kind of strategy, right, where it's like, what the cost per acquisition might be, the level of competition that you might receive, and then the budget that you should assign to each kind of stage of the funnel. So you can actually implement a funnel in search ads. And a lot of people don't necessarily recognize this. And as I explained before, why is bottom of funnel conversion not always cost effective? Let's do some math. Let's go through a scenario, right? And hopefully this kind of sheds some light in terms of what I was saying here. So if I was to focus on conversion, right, say for example, I'm selling a product and I've got a limited budget. I don't have too much to spend on my Google ads, and it's about $500 a month. For a lot of people, sometimes some of those search terms are going to cost me north of $2 a click, $4 a click, $10 a click, because there's so much competition, right? When you're searching for certain terms, depending on the amount of other advertisers that are bidding on those terms, that's going to drive up the cost per click. So if I've got a budget of $500 a month, and I'm say for example, I've got a campaign and it's like Plumbers Wellington, for example. There's going to be a lot of competition on that term. And that means that I'm going to pay a premium to do that. And Google knows that. So here, my average CPC might be, $4.50. And then that means that I'm only going to receive 88 clicks. And then say, for example, my conversion rate or purchase rate, for e-commerce, is typically hovers on the average around the 2 to 3% mark. For an e-commerce business, if it's only 2.5% or 3%, I'm only going to get 2 purchases from that. And that's because that I'm not getting enough clicks to my website because I'm paying a premium for that click, even though it's high intent.
We've got a question here. Do you want to finish this part, or do you want to answer it now?
We can probably finish the scenario 2 and then answer it.
Perfect.
It might answer, I'm not sure. So if you were to focus on awareness, right? So if based on that kind of initial scenario where we're kind of focusing on these exploratory terms, with my limited budget, the cost per click is going to be a lot lower. So I might, end up having an average cost per click of say 50 cents, right? Which is a lot lower. So the amount of clicks that I can get for my limited budget is going to be say 1,000 clicks. Now you actually might get some overflow where people might end up purchasing anyway, because they might be exploring other parts of your website. But you might then want to think about other ways that you can then continue that conversation or nurture that relationship through offline or through a different means rather than direct advertising. So you could potentially, for example, have on your blog sign up to our newsletter to receive more tips. You could look at lead gen approaches to capture people's email address or contact details so they can stay in touch with you. That means that you can then move from them paying you paying for every click to then being able to email them directly. So in a lot of common circumstances, what I would typically see for e-commerce businesses in this scenario, they might be able to drive with $500 by focusing on exploratory terms. They might receive 1,000 clicks, compared to 88, and then they might have like a lead rate, of about 10 to 15%, which then generates them 150 leads. They can then nurture and communicate with those people over time, who eventually would end up buying their products, and then you would be able to calculate what your lead to purchase rate would be, and you would actually end up with more purchases. Now, there's a little bit of more setup involved to do this, but when you've got a limited budget of say $500, I would definitely look at this approach, scenario 2 over scenario 1. Cool, ready for that question?
Perfect. Okay. The question is, if you're competing in the baby market, it feels like a lot of the terms are bottom of the funnel. We're an NZ made clothing business. What would top of funnel words look like for us?
Yeah, good question. So it really comes down to doing a bit of keyword research. I slide in there. It's about understanding the different types of content. So I would actually focus in on I'm sure there'll be potentially, I'd assume there'll be a lot of searches around the types of, ideal clothing for babies. It's, certain stages or years, or there's probably a lot of different, content that people and queries and questions that people are searching for. So it's about just undertaking some keyword research. There's a lot of, keyword tools out there that would have been talked about on these webinars. You could use the Google Ads keyword planner. And it's just looking at what would be an ideal piece of content that people would be searching for related to baby clothing, right? And I gave that skincare example. There'll definitely be there'll be a lot of terms out there. I couldn't give you like some specifics, but it's about undertaking that keyword research first, coming up those list of keywords, and then you'd still need to kind of develop that content or have a blog post or something like that. But then what you can do, because you're not necessarily going to rank for that blog post, how hard, you would have heard how hard it is, potentially how hard it is to actually rank, a lot of content these days on Google search, particularly for non-branded terms, or it takes a lot of time. Taking that piece of blog content and actually creating a campaign and then using that and using paid search and Google Ads to direct people to there is a good step. But yeah.
No, that's good. I mean, it was very individualized. So I appreciate it. I've actually dropped in the chat the Ads Google keyword planner tool. So if you want to click on that, then you can use that tool to help you find some keyword search there.
Awesome. There's heaps of tools out there. But Google Ads keyword planner tool, it's free, and it works a treat. So in this case, some like specific examples, right? And we can kind of go through specific examples because hopefully this will give you inspiration. So, one of our initial customers, Speak Sense, we started running campaigns. So what they do, they create their own custom perfumes that match based on, your own personality and traits and stuff like that. So you kind of go through this quiz. So they've kind of got this perfume quiz. And then they recommend their own kind of perfumes and stuff like that and scents for you. So really super cool. They're a local Wellington startup. They set up Creative HQ. And so when we started running initial campaigns for them, naturally we started out with, a general kind of Google Ads campaign where we targeted, buy perfumes online, buy scents online, all those, bottom of funnel terms. And, the cost per click was relatively high. Naturally in that space, it's super competitive. There's so many brands competing for the same search terms. So what we did is what we found when we were actually looking at the search terms report in Google Ads, we found that they were actually getting, there was a lot of traffic and traction for, perfume quiz or scent quiz or all these kind of quiz related terms. So what we did is we actually took those terms out and created our own specific campaign for that, created a copy that was tailored towards those search terms, and then ran that campaign. And the click rates that we're receiving were in like the 30 to 40% mark. So we're driving super relevant traffic to the website. People were going in and completing the quiz. And then at the end of it, they've actually got a lead generation hook as well. So then they're starting to collect emails. Then they can nurture them in their email system. So this worked an absolute treat where we actually identified, hey, there's actually more kind of top of funnel search terms. Rather than try and rank organically for the page, which would take months, if not years, to do for this kind of broad term. Let's actually create a Google Ads campaign for that and direct people to the quiz, and then use lead generation to capture the emails to then continue that kind of purchase journey without having to pay per click. So that's kind of an example, quite a specific example there that you can see. So like perfume quiz. And as you can see, it's all kind of organic, and there's not going to be much competition on that. So we'll be running, ads and Google Ads across the search term. So our cut through was, in terms of click through rate, was like 30 to 40%. Cool. Another one in terms of Kepla. So if we were to take our own business, right, based on the keyword research that, that I did in terms of what types of content, is related that people are searching for, that's, related to digital marketing, digital advertising. The biggest thing that came to mind was like, how do I set up my metapixel for how I set up my meta pixel or Facebook pixel for my website. And so what we did is we created a blog post, right? And I'll just scroll to it here, which is how to set up our meta pixel. And so we created this blog post. What is it? How do we set it up? How do we do it for Shopify, Webflow, Squarespace, and Wix? And there was high search volume for this. This is something that people search for all the time, and we weren't intending to get ranked that organically number one on the first page at all. But we knew that anyone who's looking to set up their meta pixel is looking to run Facebook ads, right? So what we could do here is actually take this blog post and then create a Google Ads campaign, tailor the copy to it, and then drive people to this web page. And then that actually helps us build our funnel. They might end up exploring other avenues of our website. We then may be able to run, they might be picked up in our retargeting campaigns, and we'll be paying a way cheaper cost to actually bring them to our website and get them to know about us. So again, this is one of the ways that you can do that within do that kind of awareness or top of funnel approach as well. Cool, sweet. Any other questions?
Nope, we're all good.
Cool. Another one here is the bonus tip that I've kind of chucked in here, and this might have been mentioned on the webinar. When it comes to having a limited budget, excluding your brand term from your campaign, I think is critical, unless anyone's actually bidding on your own brand. So quite often than not, I've seen in hundreds of Google Ads accounts, people have campaigns set up and they won't be excluding their brand term from their campaign. So what that means is that whenever you search for someone's brand, they'll be serving an ad right above the organic result. And in most cases, you don't need to do that unless there's actually competition for your brand term. So what that means is that you're effectively letting Google clip the ticket for every time someone searches your brand name and then clicks on your ad, when they could actually just be going through the organic result. And this is a massive money saver because it not only inflates the results of your kind of Google Ads campaigns, because people who are searching for your brand, they show very high intent. They're probably going to make a decision already because they found you through other means. And so that gets attributed to the campaign. So it makes your Google Ads campaign look really good. But if you've got a limited budget and you want to drive new customers, you should definitely exclude your brand from your Google Ads campaigns. It's a very simple, it's a very straightforward tip, but I cannot say this enough. The next thing is, if you do end up running a brand campaign because you've got, a very common brand name, right? So for example, if your domain name was plumbingwellington.co.nz, you're going to get ads on top of that, on top of your brand name, because it's a very generic company name. So you might need to run a brand campaign. The next thing that I'll do, if you have to run one, is a lot of people will set that to maximize conversions. Now, what that does is that tells Google is like, oh, I just care about, getting as many conversions as possible. But then what happens is that they can then control the cost per click that is actually, set. So, for example, you might end up paying a premium in terms of the cost per click. And so, in terms of the bid strategy that I would use for a brand campaign, is always maximize clicks, because then you can also set a maximum CPC or cost per click limit of, say, $1 or $2. So it's never going to necessarily go above that. So if you have to run brand campaigns, I would recommend setting the bid strategy from maximize conversions to maximize clicks. Now, a lot of the stuff in terms of these things is kind of taken care of in terms of those configurations and bid strategies in the Kepla platform. So if I just kind of dive into here, let me just kind of go through and go to Kepla. So this is the Kepla platform. We won't talk too much about it, but this is kind of your multi-channel dashboard. I've just got a dummy account linked up at the moment. But a lot of the kind of that stuff in the configuration is taken care of for you when it comes to creating campaigns in here. So say, for example, you're wanting to run a brand campaign, all you need to do is select a campaign goal. So like I want to drive traffic to my website. So you don't have to think about, oh, should I be setting my bid strategy from maximize conversion to maximize clicks? We kind of do that for you, and we set up and configure the campaign to be most optimal for your objective. So when it comes to driving traffic, you can select that, and then you can go and call it my brand campaign, and then you can kind of go through. And I'll just show you quickly the builder as well. You can go in and set your budget, set your location. It's a very simplified interface. And then here, you can then create your brand campaign. So you can select standard search ads. You can use our AI ad generation keyword tool. And then when it comes to then setting up your keywords, you can input them here as well. So again, for any kind of search campaign, if it's a non-branded campaign, in terms of negative keyword, enter your brand name. But if you're running a brand campaign, obviously don't do that. Cool. Sweet. So any questions?
Yep, let me just have a look in the Q&A. It says, for someone that hasn't done any paid ads yet, just launched, how much should we budget for spending per month?
Yeah, definitely. Classically, and most marketers will be like, how long's a piece of string? I recommend, you need to spend a bit to kind of test out the campaigns, test out and drive enough users and traffic to your website. The minimum that I would spend, over the course of a month would be, $500 a month, depending on your product or your service. So it really depends on your industry, because you might end up having a really high cost, but you might be in an industry that's a really high cost per click. So ultimately, you got to work out, based on my $500 a month, how many clicks do I expect to receive for that? And that then helps you kind of test out, how many people are then converting or taking action on my website. We have in the resources section, we have a forecast calculator, so you can input your budget, and then it takes industry averages as well, so you don't have to have those, and then it calculates, how many clicks that you might expect to see. So $500 a month, and from there, I'd probably shorten it, the duration as well. So say, for example, I have a test budget of $500 a month. I actually might test it out for 2 weeks just to see what the impact is.
Great. Thank you so much. There's another question here. If your brand name has 3 words, e.g. high country salmon, if this is put in a negative in as negative keywords, will it exclude individual words or the whole brand name?
Yeah, cool. So that depends on the match type that you select. So if you've got a very common, you've got a name which also has the product that you sell, like salmon. What I would recommend doing is putting the whole kind of phrase, your whole brand, so high country salmon, or if that's the brand, the brand name, and using phrase match. So you can actually add in a negative keyword, set it to phrase match, which means that it needs to, any keywords that need to meet that. There needs to have that order of those 3 words in the same sequence, or you can set it to exact match, where it's like, exclude people who are searching only just for high country salmon, and that means that none of your kind of non-branded or generic terms will be impacted by that.
Thank you so much. And there's another question here. Thanks for the presentation, Jonty. What are your thoughts between Squarespace and Shopify in terms of e-commerce website for small business with limited products?
Whoa, that's a good one.
I know, and we are Switzerland here at Digital Boost, so I won't comment on that at all.
Yeah,
but and if you don't have an opinion, you can also
So there's 2 factors to that. If you've got limited products and you're looking at ease of use, Shopify is pretty easy, but it can be. There's a lot of stuff to it though. There's a lot of things that you do. There's a lot of if you're selling high volume, in terms of you've got lots of SKUs, there's a lot of product management, inventory management in place. I would recommend Shopify, because they've got their depth of e-commerce capabilities. They've got a higher, better depth of those capabilities and integrations and plugins. But if you're looking for ease of use, you've only got 4 to 5 products, or up to 10 products, using something like Squarespace is totally fine. It's probably a lot easier to manage the website as well and make changes. rather than a Shopify site. So if you've got like a full-on e-commerce business and you're selling like heaps of products, or you've got lots and lots of SKUs, like hundreds of SKUs, I'd probably recommend Shopify. But Squarespace, if you've got, you know, a limited product set and you want a easier CMS to kind of change.
Sweet. Thanks so much for your advice.
No worries. Cool. The next one is the social ads funnel. So you would have seen this in all the webinars, right? So the way that I would recommend, you know, running any Meta or Facebook campaigns is to build a funnel, and you can still do this with $500, right? And so here it's all about the, you know, segmenting out your stages. So the awareness stage, you know, what we talk about is, what we want to do is, rather than selling the product and service straight to, you know, to a cold audience, like a, you know, a Facebook, you know, demographic interest or detailed targeting, is that you want to create content that's going to relate or resonate with your audience. Now, the great thing about the social ads funnel is that you can obviously take, because it's pretty much the same approach as the search funnel, right? So you can actually repurpose a lot of your content or your work that you've done for the search funnel, and also put it onto, you know, create a social ads funnel as well. And that's what we can do now. So for example, when it comes to the awareness stage, it's about understanding, creating content, you know, what's going to actually be useful to your potential customers, or you know, any new customers, that isn't a direct sell, because not everyone's keen to buy or purchase your product, particularly when it comes to, you know, seeing ads on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok and any other place, right? You want to be adding value at that initial touch point. So what type of content is going to resonate and relate to my audience? So in this case, we can actually take the same example, and we could, you know, as Kepla, we'd probably create an awareness campaign around, you know, how to set up the metapixel for your CMS. Or we might do something where it's related to, you know, here's a free template to set up all your tracking and measurement. So we're actually providing value. We're not actually selling Kepla, the platform, yet. We know that this is related and will be used by our target audience, and we can actually qualify them as a potential customer. One, that's going to increase the amount of engagement that we see through from the ad, as well as the click through. And that's going to also reduce our cost per click, because of that higher engagement and higher relevance. So rather than a direct product or service sale, we can use and take a piece of content like this. We might have also created this for our Google Ads funnel as well. So we can also take that same approach and put it on LinkedIn as well, and put it on in Meta and Instagram and social channels as well. And then for the consideration stage, so this is people who have been to your website. So this is where you might retarget people. So people have engaged in the ads or visit your website and interacted with your website. This is when you probably want to introduce the product or service to them. So again, this is about communicating the unique service, unique value proposition, or the unique selling points of your product or service, putting in price points in there, and other stuff and other key benefits. And then conversion, this is when someone's, you know, might have gone a step further. They might have actually gone to the pricing page. They might have been to the contact form of your website. This is where you then want to retarget people even further with maybe testimonials, free trials, samples, all sorts of other things, just to get them across the line. Now, for most businesses, you know, small businesses, this funnel's too much, right? So what we typically would do, what I would do for a lot of small businesses with a limited budget, is actually probably condense my funnel into two stages, which is my awareness and then consideration or conversion stage. Because typically, if you've got a limited budget, you're probably, you know, you're not necessarily going to be able to drive, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of website visitors and traffic to your website, you know, with a $500 budget. So when it comes to building those audiences for, you know, your conversion stage, you're not going to really have a large audience pool. That means you're going to pay a premium to serve those ads in front of that audience, and they're going to be served the same ads again and again and again. So your budget utilization isn't going to be that effective. So a lot of people will, you know, push this three-stage funnel. But what I recommend for most, you know, small businesses is to really just focus on the awareness stage, and then the consideration, and kind of combine the consideration and conversion into one kind of retargeting campaign as well. So what I would probably do is have, you know, maybe a $300 budget, a $300 to $350 budget at the awareness stage, and then a, you know, $200 to $150 budget for the retargeting stage. And I can quickly kind of show you what that looks like through in the Kepla platform as well, and kind of how we'd go about setting that up. Cool. So in this case, when it comes to my retargeting, my prospecting and my awareness audience, there's probably, a lot of people will say, use an engagement or set up a conversion-based campaign. And I would definitely agree with that premise. But the only hesitation that I'd have for a lot of small businesses who are just starting out, they might not have all the conversion data accessible, or they might have a small or finite number of purchases, right? And so if they only had like 10 purchases or 5 purchases over the last month, if you select an engagement-based campaign and then you select that I want to optimize or optimize my campaign for purchases, right? It doesn't necessarily have enough data to go on because it's only got 5 or 10 data points. So when it comes to, particularly small businesses with limited, events and conversions coming through their accounts, sometimes engagement can be a bit of a trap. And that's why I might recommend, a traffic or a landing, optimized for landing page views. In Kepla platform, it's literally, you just select the drive traffic and kind of go through that. So for my awareness, I'd probably recommend this campaign type. But if I've got enough conversion data, I would then actually do an engagement-based goal in Kepla for the awareness stage as well. And then I might call it, awareness, because I want to split it out. I want to see the different kind of reporting and performance of these campaigns. And I'm going to call it, I'm going to take, this one, take this post. So I got quite a bit of tabs in here. And it's going to be a tracking and measurement digital marketing audience. So you can call the campaign whatever you want, and you can just select meta for this. I'll then obviously set my budget. So I might say $300. I've got an ongoing campaign, so I've got a monthly campaign spend here, but we can also do a lifetime campaign spend. So if I want to have like a fixed start and end date, I can do that quite easily. And then I might select a location. Now, when it comes to limited budget, I would definitely be like looking at my location, being like, well, if I've got $300 to spend, I want to kind of drill down and kind of isolate maybe a certain region. I think a lot of people, sometimes they go too far and wide. And so if you've got $300 a month, you want to be hitting, you want to actually still build up repetition and get some sort of ad frequency and kind of get top of mind with a certain audience. But if you spread yourself too thin, yes, the ad frequency is going to be low, but you're not going to get that recall and hit that optimal recall in terms of your ad. And then the meta audiences. So here I can go into my demographics or interests, and I might select advertising, for example. And then I can create my ad, and then I can also use our ad generation tool just to speed it up as well. But here I'll put my content piece, because this is going to help me qualify customers. So again, I'm actually going to create a straight product sell. And then I might go tracking Google Tag Manager tracking template. And I'm just going to generate the ad copy. So we've integrated into ChatGPT for this. ChatGPT has been down over this morning and last night. So this is impacting anyone who's integrated into ChatGPT at the moment will be experiencing some issues with this. So it might not necessarily pull through. Just FYI. Cool.
Of course, right? Of course. Yeah. We actually learned about a new tool called Writer the other week, which was really cool as well. And I'll drop that link in the chat. It's not integrated, obviously, with Kepla, but if you need to find some copy, you could use that while they're down.
100%. Let me just go back. Cool. Yeah, it's having a bit of a trouble there. We also launched our open beta, our full platform yesterday. So we've had a bit of a server overload as well with people signing up and linking their accounts. So then I would kind of run that campaign and I'd launch that campaign and push that. And then I'd create a separate campaign. So in terms of my retargeting, I'll then go back in, and then I'd select the engagement objective. So again, I'll then call this retargeting, product and service. And then this is when I'd want to then, obviously retarget people who have been to my website. So again, I can then set my budget. So say $100 or $150. I'll select my location. And then my audience, I've already got a retargeting audience that I've set up. So, website visitors over the last 30 days. So that means I'm going to serve ads to people who've visited my website already. So I want to serve them a different type of ad messaging. And then I can create their ads as well. And then I'll go through, and here the difference is that we give you the ability to select the conversion event. So this is what will optimize the campaign towards. So in this case, I might select start trial in this case, because that's an event that I want to optimize the campaign towards. So we're going to find people who are most likely to commit to that, commit that action, or produce that action. And then I'd launch that campaign. And that's how I'd kind of create a real simple funnel. I'd probably leave out the conversion stage for a lot of small businesses. Cool. Any questions?
There was one about shipping, but I kind of think that it might be more of a support question. It was just about, like, do you have any recommendations for shipping companies for NZ? But you guys are all online, so like NZ and us. So I kind of feel like that would be a better question for support. So if you're looking for answers to that, just contact support@digitalboost.co.nz and we'll help you source that information.
100%. That's a different beast. Shipping, for sure. Cool. And then the next one, just really conscious of time, is the cross-channel strategy. So there's a real cool thing that you can do to kind of leverage the audiences of other platforms. So what people might not realize is, you take LinkedIn ads, for example. We all know how LinkedIn's ads is a very effective channel, can be a very effective channel to reach and engage customers, particularly B2B businesses, right? But it's also very costly. The main selling that I see for LinkedIn is the audiences that are on there. So you can obviously target people and get a campaign and serve ads and get in front of people who are in a certain company, have a certain job title. They've got this really detailed kind of job and market-based audiences, which is super useful for B2B, but they can also come at a really high cost. So the cost that you're paying to go and serve your ads in front of those customers can be in between $20, $30, $50, $100 CPM, or cost per 1,000 impressions. So this is a really cool tactical way that we can actually leverage the LinkedIn audiences and actually leverage that and use those audiences again from other to more cost-effective channels. So take this example, right? Is I might look to run a LinkedIn campaign, and I would probably run it for prospecting. So I would actually select job title and company, maybe for businesses who are looking for shared office space. So I might set my targeting in the platform and then run that campaign. That then generates lots of clicks and traffic to my website, and I might be using what's called UTMs, which is a string of text that's appended to my URL, which Google Analytics picks up. So that allows you it captures the session, the source of where the user come from, where the person came from, the campaign, and any other information that you put in there. And so what you can then do is create an audience. You can actually create specific audiences in Google Analytics from people who have come through that campaign. And the reason why that's really cool is that you can then obviously set the targeting requirements, drive people from LinkedIn who might be CEOs in New Zealand, for example, might be your targeting criteria. Drive all the CEOs to your website, and then look to engage them and leverage other channels that are probably a lot more cost effective, like Google Display when it comes to remarketing, or Meta ads, or Insta ads as well. So you can actually create an audience off the back of the traffic that's come through that specific campaign, and then apply that to more cost effective channels. And this is something that is definitely missed, not necessarily done by a lot of businesses. And it means that you can hit the same high value audience for a lot cheaper. So in Google Analytics, in order to do this, you can jump into your Google Analytics, for example. You can go into admin, and then you can go into just loading again. Permissions. One moment. That's a classic when going in platform and this stuff happens rather than a preso. Cool.
Look, we understand here at Digital Boost, I'll tell you.
It's like with all the authentication stuff like that, like all the, anyway, cool. So then you can go into audiences and then create a custom audience. And then you can set a condition. So say, for example, I created a LinkedIn campaign and people are coming from my LinkedIn campaign. I can go down to traffic source and then I can scroll down and I can also do Google ads, but I can actually go session campaign or session source and medium. So I might run a LinkedIn campaign. I can go LinkedIn campaign contains, CEOs, shared space. And then I can apply that. And then that would actually, if there was obviously people who come through that campaign, that would then I'll be able to create that audience and then share that audience to my Google Ads account and then run a display campaign against that audience. So it's leveraging one channel's audience capabilities and then using those and repurposing that for different channels as well. And again, so the benefits of doing so using LinkedIn ads, 100% for your prospecting campaigns, rather than retargeting, typically has a lower cost per click. And then what you can do is set up audiences in Google Analytics and then retarget that same audience in Meta or Google Display Network at a way cheaper cost.
Question here, what's the minimum size for those audiences to be reusable? Sorry.
Yeah, so typically when it comes to Google Display, it's over 100 unique users. Sometimes anywhere between 100 to 1,000 is ideal. So naturally, CEOs in New Zealand's very hyper-targeted audience, but you could probably get, depending on the LinkedIn campaign that you're running, you could probably get quite a bit in there over a 30 to 60 day period. Typically anywhere between, I would probably gun for like 500 to 1,000 people within that audience minimum.
Great, thanks so much, Jonty.
And then the one hidden gem that I really wanted to bring up, because I was talking to the Microsoft Ads team in Sydney last week, because we're actually looking to do a Microsoft Ads integration into Kepla. And I also realized that they actually have LinkedIn targeting capabilities in their platform, which is a very rare find that not many people know about. So you can actually run Bing ads and across their Microsoft Display Network, because they've actually got their own display network as well. And they can actually, you can actually leverage LinkedIn audience targeting. So the companies, industries, and job functions. And that's super useful. And typically what we see is, when it comes to running ads across in the Microsoft Ads platform, you're already getting a way cheaper cost per click. There's a lot less competition. You could probably capitalize on the their recent investments into OpenAI and ChatGPT, because there's a lot of more people going into Bing at the moment. But it also comes with this really wicked targeting capabilities that not many people know about. So a massive hidden gem there. And then some resources I'll just finish up is feel free to head to our blog on kepla.io/blog, where we've got a digital advertising forecasting tool. We've got an analytics and tracking template for Google Tag Manager to help you set up all your tracking. We've got a benchmarking dashboard. There's a lot of tools and free resources out there. We could potentially share those with Digital Boost as well, and they can maybe chuck them on their own platform. Highly recommend checking those out. And that's pretty much it. There's some stuff around Kepla. I know we didn't delve too much into in terms of the functionality of Kepla. Maybe that's for another time.
Yeah, maybe we do add that as a session. I've just dropped Kepla's blog link into the chat, so you can click right on that and it'll open up in a different browser. You're very welcome for just a comment here. Got to jump up. Thank you much for a great session. You're welcome. I'm so glad we did this. And I actually was noticing that we do have another session, I think, booked with you later down the line. And I was just going to grab when that is. I thought we did, but maybe we don't. And I was seeing things. Oh, maybe we don't, but we can chat about that. Running a session on maybe actually getting into the tool and like really using it and setting it up and seeing how. I think that would be really great, because I think some all of this stuff can be a little bit like, oh, it's got all this functionality, but like, how do I use it for me? It might be a workshop thing, Jonty.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll
100%.
like do a couple of things for a few businesses. We kind of go, all
Yeah,
right, we're going to do 5 things within this workshop time, show you how
yeah.
to set up and get it
We,
going.
we if you've got any businesses in mind, we can get them on board and help them link their ad accounts, and we can kind of help them create campaigns right then and there, maybe. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be really, really interesting. This has been such a great session. The one thing I noticed about you and Tim is that your minds work really quickly. Like, you guys are
So
so passionate and you're so knowledgeable. I think sometimes we sit here and go, all right, I'm gonna re-listen to this like later and go back through and at a slower pace, just because
yeah,
there's so much content to
yeah,
get through. And you've just provided so much value for us. So I really
awesome.
appreciate you coming on today
No
and
worries.
all you. Yeah. What value do you see in small budget campaigns incorporating promo code deals to help track marketing conversions?
Yeah, that's definitely a useful one. If you've got lots of traditional or offline advertising where it's checking in some sort of exclusive code or some sort of unique, like a lot of people are into QR codes now, which is quite a standard, habitual thing for most people. So in your QR code, you can actually append your like a UTM, so a tracking link to that URL. So then you can track and measure the amount of people who are actually coming through from traditional offline sources. So highly recommend doing that. It's really good for other like influencer marketing and other things where there might be a broken attribution, and it might not necessarily be a fully direct buy journey or purchase journey. So definitely like codes or unique tracking links and QR codes is ideal.
Yeah, there's some more kind of comments, questions here. Thank you so much for the info. Can you please share the tables you put up, please? Yeah, are you happy to share those with us and we'll put it up as a resource? Is that what
Yeah.
they're asking? Yeah, that would be cool. Thank you. I'll certainly be a re-listener.
Yeah, definitely. And really like the fundamentals of Kepler, like you mentioned, that a lot of the stuff is overwhelming, right? And that's why Kepler exists. So we've built a tool where it's like you don't have to log into Google Ads and Meta Ads and understand the platforms. You've seen like the campaign creation is quite straightforward. Everything's in one place. The reporting's all unified. You get your own dashboard, and there's some really cool other functionality like benchmarking and other things. So really, it is designed for small businesses, and is a very cost-effective solution. So highly recommend checking out. I know we do have a special digital boost offer that I sent through.
Yeah, we do have an offer. It's up on the website. So if you guys are looking for that offer, just jump onto the website, scroll down once you're logged in, and we've got the provider offers there. Just click on here. It'll take you right to the page. You'll see the Kepla thing, and it'll direct you right to where you need to go to access that. So it's all up online already. And if you have any other questions, Jonty's on LinkedIn. You can always reach out to him there. It looks like you've got really great chat bot kind of. Is it live chat or chat bot on
Yes,
your?
yes, like live chat. So it's pretty much me and one other person. So feel free
Yeah,
to jump on,
so
have a chat.
yeah, jump on Kepla. You can jump on the live chat. You can have a chat with Jonty about your business and what you're kind of looking for, I would say. And then, they'll walk you through the steps if this is something that'll work for you. It's really nice to see you develop a tool for small businesses that takes a lot of that guesswork out. And there was a real gap in the market there, and you guys have plugged that gap. So good on you for developing another great system for people.
Cool.
And yeah, we love having you on. Thank you so much for joining us here. Boost. And for all you folks, this is recorded, so you'll be able to watch it again later. If you're on social media, as soon as it does its finalization, you'll be able to watch it there again as well. So have a wonderful day, everyone. Now on Thursday, we're workshopping finances. Make sure that you join us with Sam Harith on Thursday. It's a closed session. You've got to register for it. He puts the fun in finance, and that's going to help you to plan your marketing budget. So
they'll tell you to cut your marketing spend.
No, he's actually pretty good. He's got a PhD in finance, and he most of his team, even though he's an accountant and does other kind of business advice, most of his team is marketing. So yeah, because he recognized he's actually got one of the 50 in the world best financial blogs out there. Wow. And he focuses a lot on that kind of stuff. So he's quite an interesting fellow. So you should
jump on.
Jonty. You should. Yeah. He's really great. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Sorry, my voice is super hoarse. I've got a cold, and so I'm not speaking a lot, but we'll see you on Thursday. And thanks again, Jonty, and the whole team at Kepla.
Awesome. Thanks so much.